Hello and welcome back to another episode of Your Drone Questions Answered. I'm John Dickow, here to find the answers to your drone questions. Today's question is sort of a few questions mixed into one. We get a lot of questions about what are clients looking for when it comes to shooting commercial video. So we're going to be calling this episode Tips for Shooting Commercial Drone Video for Clients. So I'm welcoming back David Beedy. He's the founder of Beedy Media. Just one of the services he offers is drone video, but he's got more than 30 years in video production under his belt. David, thanks for joining me again here today.
Good to be with you again, John.
So before we dive into this question or the many questions as part of this topic, tell us sort of what you've been up to. Tell us a little bit about Beedy Media, the services you offer, and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm not solely a drone pilot and doing it commercially. That's really become just a tool, as you said, a tool in the toolbox in recent years. But I'm a all-in-one video production, all under one umbrella. So
Mhm.
I write and I shoot and I direct and I do everything from nonprofit work to corporate work. In recent weeks, I was the DP on a short film doing a cinematic project for the first time after all these years. Every day is a different day, which is really interesting. And so I don't know what I'm going to be doing any given day. Some days I'm a drone pilot and I need to make my customers happy with incredible drone footage. And other days I'm editing corporate presentations that I filmed, weeks ago. So it's a lot of variety, which is good. I get to work with corporations. I get to work with interesting people. I've certainly been staying busy.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. And again, it's awesome to kind of check back with somebody after a year and hear what they've been up to. That just sort of leaves the first question of what are clients really looking for when it comes to commercial video? And I think when we think of that drone shot, we think of that epic aerial shot. But there's obviously more to it. And talk us through that a little bit. And this is really just coming from your specific experience, what your clients are looking for. How do you go about shooting their video?
So I use the drone and I'm saying half of my projects are kind of my existing work. So it's the
Mhm.
non for profit that needs an epic shot of their headquarters. And so the drone shot becomes just a really nice shot among many shots that we've taken. And then I have other people, other customers that look to me as strictly a drone guy. And those tend to be contractors. That's one area that's picked up in the past year, kind of through word of mouth where a contractor's putting up, let's say, a big data center in the Chicago area. And so in one case, they had to demolish an existing 2 city block square area of this old warehouse. And there was a demolition. And every week they'd want me to come out and get updated footage of the demolition. And so I would probably have visited that site maybe 8 or 9 times just through the demolition. And now they're going to build a new, I think it's a cold storage facility on that same property. And once again, once they start the construction, they're going to want me out there every week or every couple of weeks. And so each time I go out there, I shoot kind of conventional drone footage. I've got a DJI Air 3. That's my newest drone. And because that has two camera lengths, two focal lengths on that drone, I'm able to get just a nice variety of conventional drone stuff. So some high, some tight, creeping across different focal lengths. And that works well. But about a month into this project, I started playing with a new drone called the DJI Avata. You wear goggles and it tends to take very low shots and you control it, kind of like a video game. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that, but I started breaking it out on these shoots. And I
Uh-huh.
found that combining this wide, epic looking stuff with the stuff that's lower to the ground and a little bit more immersive, like with, flying past a crane or right over a dump truck, gave it
Yeah.
like just an incredible new feel and fresh feel. And I'm pretty convinced that's one of the reasons they want me to go back so often. They just get a real kick out of looking at the stuff. And so I'll take the two camera angles and I'll combine it into like a 5 minute chunk. And then I'll also create that same chunk into like a 2.5 minute. So they have a long version and a short version. And what they tell me they do is I don't add any music or anything. And I send them review links to both of them. And they tend to send that link to a marketing team that puts together like social media blast. And they'll take, portions of my stuff. What I'm told it's that low angle Avata stuff that they really, really think is cool.
Very cool. Now this is, kind of a new thing. So if correct me if I'm wrong, so you've been flying like a FPV drone. I gotta ask you because I wasn't expecting to even ask this question, but how has that been learning that the learning curve? Did you take a class, did you take a course, or did you just practice?
No, I just yeah, to be honest, I just played with it for like 1 or 2 times in a field, and then it
Very
was
cool.
like it's pretty intuitive, and there is a learning curve, not flying it per se, but just setting everything up. There's an app
Uh,
that has to be hooked to this battery, and you're wearing so there's a bit of a, like, just remembering how to, like, make it all work.
Very cool and very nice to hear that, that's something that really can just sort of play around with, tinker with, and really add to your arsenal of skills, of tools.
And one other thing I should mention is I've always like sort of struggled when I do these large construction projects and they eventually get the walls up and they get a ceiling on and invariably they'll say I'd like some great coverage on the inside. I would always say I'll go as far as I can, but once you get and you lose satellite with the Air 3 or any of the conventional drones, I would always be real hesitant to shoot indoors and I still see on DJI's site that, you could have issues, but with this Avata, I've never had an issue losing satellite where I've lost control. I've always maintained control. So that's made a huge difference being able to shoot indoors.
Very cool, and when you're shooting video indoors, we've had people say, "Hey, it's hard, it's shaky, I can't get a stable shot." But with your Avata, you haven't experienced a shaky video or anything like that.
So the Avata, I picked up a tip somewhere, and certainly I didn't invent this. There's a site I think it's a app called Gyro Flow. Have you heard
Okay.
of? So Gyro Flow is a free app, and the creator of it welcomes contributions. I've hit him up a few times because his app makes it indispensable, and what it does is it smooths out all your shaky footage on the Avata. I've never had an issue with shaky footage on the Air 3. I mean, I've never had a need to do that. It's always like really smooth, really buttery. But the Avata is shaky and it wobbles and a windy day, it's hard to get even horizon to stay because a little crosswind can kilter the shot. So you run anything you shoot through this Gyro Flow app, and suddenly it's like very smooth, very smooth. It adds a step to the process. It's what saves all these shots.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. Gyro Flow,
Yes.
post-production fixed to shaky video.
Yep. You drop
Uh,
your clip right onto the app, and then there's a period of rendering. It's not instantaneous. So like if you shoot, 4 minutes, it might take 12 minutes to render, and then it outputs, and it's like, oh, okay, now it's usable.
wow, that's really cool. Thank you. I'm just so glad we're like answering way more questions than I expected. I want to keep going at this conversation. One thing that you mentioned when it comes to previewing or even delivering drone video, so you said you provide links. Now, is there a specific platform you use that may ease the experience for the client to view the video, download the video, maybe have a certain space that would allow for larger size files?
Yeah. So I use Vimeo is my platform.
Hmm.
It's ad free. There's no clutter. It's not like YouTube. There's a lot of things that can be distracting to a client. On Vimeo, I can upload. I think I have a pro account that might cost me $200 or $300 a year, and you get enormous amounts of storage. And then you can upload. Once I edit, let's say in the cases of these drone clips, I'll export. I'll shoot it in 4K. I'll edit in 4K. Sometimes I even export in 4K, but typically for somebody who's using it for social media, an HD export is usually fine. And that's what I'll export to Vimeo. And now I just grab a link. They have a review feature, which is sometimes helpful, where I can set it up as a review link.
Oh,
And
nice.
then if a client watches and notices something like I see one of my guys without a hard hat. Let's get him out of there. They can actually type those right in, and so it's a pretty intuitive, good way to share what I create.
Yeah, that sounds like an improvement on, say, just sending a link from your Google Drive or something like that, where
Right,
that
right.
review function seems pretty useful. I wanted to throw this question out there too because we do get it often, and I know every situation is probably a little different. But do you ever have clients purchasing the rights to a video or deal with a situation where it's a video that they purchase and now they own it, you can't use it anymore, or they have rights and you can still sell that same aerial shot to maybe another client?
I've kind of gotten out of the stock footage. When I first got the drone, I thought this was like a way to make a lot of passive income. And I took it pretty seriously for about a year. And I think I have maybe five or 600 clips on four or five different stock houses. And I think most months I make less than $30, $40. It's not worth it, to be honest. It's become so saturated and everybody has the tools. So um, I got a notice yesterday. I have this great shot in a Galena cornfield at sunset, and somebody bought it yesterday, and I made $8. So, okay. I now view everything I shoot is the property of the person who paid me to shoot it,
Okay.
and I don't own the rights to it. So I would never take any of that stuff and put it on a stock footage site. I assume they own it. It's never really come up. It's their footage. On rare occasion, if I'm doing something that's not going to see, like the public will never see. It's only like shown like in an internal thing. I have a promotional piece that I'm doing for a conference in Pittsburgh, and I have some Pittsburgh drone footage that I shot a few years ago. I might steal a shot or two of that. Again, it's an internal piece that nobody will ever see. For the most part, the kind of drone work I do, there really is not a question of the rights. It's my clients own that footage. I just happen to house it. I keep it as an archive. But for anybody aspiring to do this, I will charge my client on occasion. I'll add an external drive line item to my invoice just because this footage takes up a lot of space. And if I'm just charging like on a hourly basis, like I usually charge like $375 to go shoot one of these sites and edit two clips, which is not a lot of money. If I suddenly have to also secure 8 terabyte external drives and pay for that out of my pocket, now it's like makes no sense at all. So don't be afraid to, on occasion, at least charge the hard cost of your external drives.
That's an excellent tip. So, last question. Obviously, this is something I like to ask everybody, but you're in such a great position to answer it. The Drone Launch Academy community is really made up of people who are trying to get educated about not just how to fly the drone, but how to apply it to their business, how to apply it to a new business. And working with clients could be new to a lot of people. What advice would you have for maybe somebody who's just getting started, new to this kind of client service? What would you tell them?
I think, especially if you're young and you're new and you're looking to get your foot in the door, I think the best way to do that is to find things that you really want to shoot and then go shoot them, and maybe offer your services for free or next to free, like really discount your services heavily and maybe even for nothing. Find a good non for profit that needs video work and service them and create a portfolio. And the more you interface with these clients, the more you're making connections, the more you have something to show on your reel. And then you get comfortable talking to people, you get comfortable making them happy. You start to understand what works for their business. How does your work help them succeed in their business? And I think don't be afraid to do some things for nothing at first. If you're in the business and you can't do it for nothing, try to throw it in as an add-on. So for example, you're doing the video and you're going to do some drone work and you're not going to charge them, like an extra day of shooting for the drone work. That's going to be just a bonus kind of thing. And it just increases the production value of your reel and increases the chances you're going to get a good review. It's a lot of word of mouth is what works, I think, in this business.
Fantastic. Especially when it comes to that topic, charging things. It's another question we get all the time. And so, and every situation is a little different, but it really, from what you're saying, those first few experiences with clients are really probably really good learning experiences. And that opportunity to kind of figure out exactly where that sweet spot is. And so it makes a lot of sense. David, this has been a fantastic conversation. We've answered more questions than I had hoped for. And so I think this is going to be a very valuable interview. And I want to thank you for coming on, taking the time away from your editing to chat with me. And so, once again, this is David Beedy. He's the founder of Beedy Media, video production house. Drone shots are just one thing he does. It's one tool as a part of the overall product that he delivers. We'd love to have you on again to answer more questions. So thanks again, David.
Anytime, John. Anytime. Enjoyed it.
And hey, if you got a drone question, we'd love to find the answer to it. If you're part of the Drone Launch Connect community, drop your question in there. There's a good chance the community might get to it before I do. Also, if you can go on to ydqa.io, type in your question there. We'll see it. We will find someone who will answer it. In the meantime, we'll see you in the sky.